My friends and I had heard whispers about an isolated river deep in the heart of the Adirondacks. They called it the river that never ends, and it was supposedly avoided by locals for reasons no one could quite articulate. Intrigued by the legends, we decided to see it for ourselves. We set off in early morning, the air filled with the excitement of adventure. The river, hidden in the woods, was pristine and almost unnervingly quiet. The banks were lined with dense foliage, and the water was a deep, dark blue, seemingly untouched by human hands. The first hour was beautiful. The surroundings were picturesque, and the river flowed steadily, guiding us deeper into the forest. But as the day wore on, something felt off. The river's path seemed endless, each bend leading to another, more confusing bend. We checked our map and GPS, but they were both completely unreliable here. As the sun began to set, we noticed the shadows growing longer and more pronounced, even though the trees around us weren't particularly dense. It was as if the darkness was creeping in from all sides, swallowing the light. We pressed on, hoping to find a way out, but the river's path twisted back on itself. The sense of disorientation grew. Our jokes and laughter faded, replaced by a tense silence. My friend Mark suggested we set up camp for the night and continue in the morning, but no one was keen on staying in what felt like an increasingly malevolent environment. Then came the first sign of something truly unsettling. We heard faint, distorted voices, like distant murmurs carried on the breeze. At first, we thought it was the wind, but as we listened, the voices became clearer, almost like they were coming from just beyond our line of sight. "Turn back. Leave now." The voices seemed to emanate from the very trees, their words barely more than a whisper, but impossibly eerie. We were on edge, each of us growing more anxious as the minutes passed. We decided to turn back and retrace our path, but the river's layout had become a labyrinth. The bends and turns no longer made sense. The map and GPS were now completely useless. Panic set in as nightfall enveloped us. The river seemed to stretch on forever, each stretch of water indistinguishable from the last. We paddled frantically, but every turn felt like a repetition of the previous one. It wasn't until the eerie stillness of the night was broken by a low, guttural growl, something that could only come from an animal or entity far beyond the natural, when we finally lost our composure. We paddled harder, desperate to escape the oppressive darkness and the growing sense of dread. Just when we thought it was over, we stumbled upon a small, eerie clearing in the river. In the center was an old, rotting rowboat, eerily familiar. Its paint was peeling, and it looked exactly like the one we had initially rented. That's when we understood. The river wasn't just avoiding people, it was trapping them. We barely made it back to the shore, our faces pale and our hearts racing. We swore never to return. The locals' warning now made sense. The river was untraveled not because it was difficult to navigate, but because once you entered, it was impossible to leave. The river was more than a waterway. It was a living trap, a place where those who ventured too far became part of its endless, unchanging route.